The discovery. Lyra Xenval leaned forward in her chair, the blue light of her terminal reflecting off her silver skin as she scrolled through the Galactic archives. As a junior researcher for the Unification Council, she had access to more information than most, but tonight she was venturing beyond her clearance level. Computer, show me quarantine status reports for Sector 3 to 459. She whispered, her four-fingered hands moving swiftly across the holographic interface. The computer beeped in protest. Access denied. Clearance level 7 required. Lyra smiled, inserting a data spike into the terminal's port. The small device, a gift from her mentor before his mysterious disappearance, bypassed the security protocols in seconds. The screen flashed red, then settled on a file labeled Earth. The Unification Council, composed of representatives from the 12 most advanced species in the galaxy, had been established over 10,000 years ago. As a Novalian, Lyra's people had joined only recently, a mere 5 centuries past. But even they knew the one unwritten rule that all species learned upon joining. Earth was forbidden territory. The official explanation was simple. Humans were an underdeveloped species requiring protection from outside influence. But Lyra had always suspected there was more to the story. Her mentor, Dr. Tazral, had vanished 3 standard cycles ago while researching Earth's quarantine status. Beginning file decryption, the computer announced as the screen filled with previously hidden data. Lyra's large, almond-shaped eyes widened as she began to read. The file contained not just quarantine protocols, but observations, incident reports, and most shocking of all, detailed accounts of 7 separate extinction-level events that had befallen advanced civilizations that attempted to study Earth too closely. The Krelnar expedition vanished within lunar orbit. The Veritas monitoring station went dark after detecting unusual energy patterns from the planet's core. The Zentari Sentinel fleet completely destroyed by unknown forces. Lyra's breathing quickened. These weren't just monitoring missions. These were some of the most advanced species in the galaxy, some now extinct, their final transmissions all containing variations of the same warning. Stay away from Earth. But it wasn't the humans they feared. According to the reports, humans were oblivious to the true nature of their world. Earth itself seemed to be the threat, or something ancient sleeping beneath its surface. The final entry in the file was dated nearly 8,000 years ago, written by the elders of Arcturus, one of the founding species of the Council. We hereby establish the Earth Quarantine Protocol. No contact is to be made with the planet designated Earth or its inhabitants. The humans must never learn what lies beneath their feet. For the safety of all galactic species, Earth shall remain isolated until the humans either perish or evolve beyond their current limitations. Lyra leaned back, her mind racing. What could possibly be on Earth that would frighten species capable of harnessing the energy of stars and bending space-time to their will? A notification flashed on her screen. Unauthorized access detected. Security measures initiated. Cursing under her breath, Lyra quickly downloaded the files to her personal device and removed the data spike. She had minutes, perhaps seconds, before security forces would arrive. As she rushed through the dimly lit corridors of the research facility, Lyra made a decision that would change her life forever. She needed to see Earth for herself. High Counselor Drez Mokhtar studied the security report with growing concern. His crystalline exoskeleton reflected the light as he paced the council chamber. A junior researcher accessed the Earth files. "How is this possible?" he demanded. Security Chief Vex nodded solemnly, her reptilian features revealing nothing. "She used advanced technology to bypass our systems. We believe it was provided by Dr. Tazral before his incident." Tazral. Drez spat the name like a curse. I warned the Council about his obsession with Earth. Now his protege follows the same dangerous path. We've dispatched units to apprehend her, but she's already left the facility. Drez stopped pacing, his compound eyes fixed on the holographic display of Earth rotating slowly above the council table. Find her before she does something foolish. The quarantine has held for 8 millennia. We cannot risk another incident. And if she attempts to reach Earth, then may the void have mercy on her soul, Drez whispered, because Earth will not. Lyra had never stolen a ship before, but the small research vessel responded well to her commands. As a xenobiologist with pilot training, she knew enough to navigate through the busy space lanes surrounding the Council hub world of Novalis Prime. Her destination was the edge of Council space, where she could recalibrate for the long jump to the Sol system. Earth was isolated but not impossible to reach. The challenge would be approaching without triggering the automated defense systems that surrounded the planet. As the stars streaked past her view screen, Lyra reviewed the stolen files again. The most disturbing aspect wasn't the warnings or the disappeared expeditions. It was the consistent mention of energy readings unlike anything known to galactic science. One report from the Centauri, written just before their fleet was destroyed, described the energy as living darkness, intelligent and ancient, reaching out with purpose. Another from the Krulnar called it the shadow between stars, older than light itself. Lyra shivered despite the ship's comfortable temperature. Perhaps she was making a terrible mistake. But she couldn't turn back now. Her mentor had sacrificed everything to uncover this truth, and she owed it to him to finish what he started. The ship's computer chimed, indicating she had reached the jump point. Beyond this threshold lay uncharted space, and beyond that, Earth, the forbidden world that for some reason terrified the oldest and most powerful species in the galaxy. Computer, initiate jump sequence, Lyra commanded, her voice steady despite her racing heart. As the ship's engines hummed and the fabric of space-time began to distort around her, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, something vast and ancient that had been waiting a very long time. The stars twisted, stretched, and vanished as the ship plunged into hyperspace. There was no turning back now. Earth was waiting. 3 weeks into her journey, Lyra began experiencing the dreams. They always started the same way. She would be standing on a blue-green world, waves crashing against rocky shores, wind rustling through trees. Earth, though she had never seen it except in images. The sky would darken, and she would feel a presence, vast, ancient, and somehow familiar, rising from beneath the ground. "Why do you come here, child of stars?" the voice would ask, its tone neither male nor female, neither threatening nor welcoming. "Do you not know what waits beneath?" And then she would wake, drenched in sweat, her hearts racing in her chest. The ship's sensors detected nothing unusual in the surrounding space, yet Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that something was reaching out to her across the void, touching her mind as she slept. As she approached the outer edge of the Sol system, past the dwarf planet Pluto, Lyra activated her stealth systems. According to her stolen files, the automated defenses should be concentrated around Earth's orbit, leaving the outer system relatively unguarded. Her scanners detected the debris of ancient monitoring stations, long since destroyed or abandoned. The oldest species had retreated from this system millennia ago, leaving only their warnings behind. As she passed Jupiter, its massive presence causing minor gravitational disturbances to her flight path, Lyra detected an anomaly. Something was moving in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, something large and definitely not natural. "Computer, analyze moving object in Sector 7, she commanded. The computer whirred. Object appears to be an artificial construct of unknown origin, mass equivalent to approximately 30 standard Council vessels. Energy signature, unclassifiable. Lyra froze. The object was changing course, heading directly toward her. She had been detected. "Evasive maneuvers," she shouted, but it was too late. Her ship shuddered as an invisible force seized it, shutting down all systems except life support. Through the view screen, Lyra watched as her ship was pulled toward the massive object, now visible as a sprawling structure of impossible geometry. its surface shifting and flowing like liquid metal. As her ship was drawn into a cavernous opening, Lyra clutched her data device containing the stolen files. Whatever was waiting for her inside that structure, she would at least have answers before the end. The ship settled gently in what appeared to be a docking bay, though unlike any Lyra had ever seen. The walls pulsed with a soft blue light, and the air, when she cautiously tested the external atmosphere, was perfectly breathable. The main hatch opened of its own accord, an invitation she couldn't refuse. Stepping into the structure, Lyra felt a strange sense of déjà vu. The corridors matched those from her dreams, though she had never seen them before in her waking life. "Hello," she called out, her voice echoing strangely in the shifting passageway. "We have been expecting you." "Lyra Senval," a voice replied, the same one from her dreams. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Lyra's heart skipped a beat. "Who are you? What is this place?" "We are the Guardians," the voice said. "And you have come seeking answers about Earth." A doorway appeared in the corridor wall, opening to reveal a vast chamber. Inside, Lyra could see what looked like a pool of liquid darkness, its surface reflecting stars that weren't there. "Enter," the voice commanded, "and see what the oldest species in your galaxy feared to know." Taking a deep breath, Lyra stepped through the doorway, her search for answers leading her deeper into the mystery that had claimed her mentor, and perhaps now her as well. The journey. The chamber that Lyra entered defied conventional physics. Though it appeared to have walls, they shifted constantly, revealing glimpses of star fields, planetary surfaces, and strange cities that couldn't possibly exist within the structure. The ceiling, if it could be called that, seemed to stretch upward into infinity, where distant points of light swirled in patterns that hurt her eyes if she focused on them too long. At the center of the chamber stood a being unlike any Lyra had encountered in her studies of galactic species. It was humanoid in general shape, but its body seemed composed of the same liquid darkness as the pool beside it, with stars and galaxies swirling within its form. Where a face should be, there was only a suggestion of features, constantly shifting and reforming. "You are not what I expected," Lyra said, finding her voice despite her fear. The being tilted its head. "And what did you expect, young one? Monsters. Demons. The oldest species of your Unification Council have painted us in many colors over the millennia." "The Guardians," Lyra whispered. "You're what they fear, what they've been hiding." "We are but caretakers," the being replied, gesturing to the pool beside it. "This is what they fear." Lyra approached the edge of the pool cautiously. Its surface was perfectly still, yet somehow in motion, like a window into another dimension. As she gazed into it, images began to form. Earth, but not as it appeared now. Earth as it had been billions of years ago, when life was just beginning. Before your species crawled from the oceans of your homeworld, before the Arcturians developed space travel, before the ancient Centauri built their now-forgotten empire, there was Earth, the Guardian explained. But Earth was never just a planet. It was always something more. The images in the pool shifted, showing something vast and incomprehensible taking shape within the molten core of the young Earth, tendrils of energy reaching outward, influencing the development of life on the surface. "What am I seeing?" Lyra asked, unable to tear her eyes away. "The birth of a god," the Guardian said simply. "Or perhaps the awakening of something that existed before your concept of gods." Lyra's scientific mind rebelled against the notion, yet she couldn't deny the evidence before her. "You're saying there's a sentient entity inside Earth. That's what the Council fears." "Not precisely inside. The entity is Earth, in a sense. The physical planet you see is merely the chrysalis, the egg from which something greater will eventually emerge." The pool showed flashes of attempted invasions throughout Earth's history, ships from civilizations Lyra didn't recognize, approaching Earth only to be destroyed or driven away by inexplicable forces. The entity protects itself, and by extension, the life that grows upon its surface. The Guardian continued. It has done so for billions of years, through 5 mass extinctions and countless smaller catastrophes. But humans, they don't know about any of this, Lyra said, recalling the files she had studied. No, they believe they are alone in the universe, special in their isolation. They have no idea that they develop under the watchful eye of something ancient beyond comprehension. The Guardian moved closer, its starry form rippling. But they are not unaffected by its presence. Humans have evolved differently than they might have on any other world. The entity's dreams touch their minds as they sleep. Its essence infuses their planet's biosphere, accelerating their development in unusual ways. Is that why the Council fears them? Because they're being influenced by this entity. The Council fears what humans might become, the Guardian corrected. Most species that achieve spaceflight do so after hundreds of thousands of years of social and technological development. Humans have gone from simple agriculture to splitting the atom in less than 10,000 years. Their potential is unpredictable. Lyra's mind was reeling with implications, so the quarantine serves 2 purposes. The Guardian finished for her. It protects the galaxy from premature contact with an entity it cannot comprehend, and it protects humans until they are ready to understand their true nature and purpose. And what is that purpose? Lyra asked. The Guardian's form seemed to smile, though it had no true face. That is the question that drove your mentor to madness, young Lyra. Are you certain you wish to know? Before she could answer, alarms blared throughout the structure. The Guardian's form tensed, stars within it pulsing more brightly. We have company, it said. The Council has found us. High Counselor Dres Mokhtar stood on the command deck of the dreadnought Eternal Vigilance, the flagship of the Council's enforcement fleet. 3 additional warships flanked the massive vessel, their weapons primed and targeting systems locked on the strange structure floating in the asteroid belt. Life signs, he asked the sensor officer. 1 Novalian, presumably the researcher Lyrek Senval, the officer replied. And something else. The sensors can't classify it. Dres nodded grimly. He had feared this outcome from the moment he learned of Lyra's theft. Hail the structure. Let's see if our wayward researcher is still in a condition to respond. The communications officer worked at his console, then shook his head. No response, Counselor. But we are detecting unusual energy patterns. The structure appears to be changing. On the main view screen, the impossible geometry of the Guardian structure was indeed shifting, its surface flowing like quicksilver, reconfiguring into something else entirely. Weapons hot, Dres ordered. If that thing makes any aggressive move. Counselor, the sensor officer interrupted, his voice rising in alarm. Energy spike. Massive power surge detected from the direction off. Earth, Dres finished, his compound eyes widening as he stared at the readout. 8 astronomical units away, the 3rd planet from the Sun was glowing with an energy signature that shouldn't have been possible for a supposedly primitive world. It's responding to the Guardian structure, the science officer said, her voice trembling. As if they're communicating. Dres felt a cold dread seeping into his crystalline exoskeleton. In 8,000 years of quarantine, this had never happened. The entity within Earth had never reached out so blatantly. Something had changed. All ships, prepare tow. Before he could finish the command, a blinding light erupted from the Guardian structure, enveloping the Council vessels in its radiance. Lyra felt the structure moving around her, reconfiguring itself in response to the Council ship's arrival. The Guardian seemed unconcerned by the potential threat. Your Council has forgotten much over the millennia, it said, its voice echoing through the chamber. They remember enough to fear, but not enough to understand. This was inevitable. What are you going to do? Lyra asked, watching as the viewports in the chamber showed the Council dreadnought approaching, weapon ports open and glowing with charged energy. Nothing. But you, Lyrek Senval, will deliver a message. Me, but I. You sought knowledge, and now you shall be its vessel. The guardian gestured to the pool of liquid darkness. Earth calls to you. It wishes to show you something. Lyra looked from the guardian to the pool and back again. You want me to enter that? It is a gateway, the guardian explained. The entity within Earth has created a threshold for you. Step through, and you will understand what no member of your council has been permitted to know for 8,000 years. Outside, the council ships had taken position around the structure, their weapons charged and ready. It was only a matter of time before they opened fire. Lyra made her decision. Clutching her data device containing the stolen files, she stepped to the edge of the dark pool. The surface rippled in anticipation. What will happen to you? She asked the guardian. The starry being seemed to shrug, a curiously human gesture. We have existed since before your galaxy took its current shape. We will continue to exist long after these events are forgotten. Go now. Earth is waiting. Taking a deep breath, Lyra stepped into the pool. The liquid darkness enveloped her, cool against her silver skin. For a moment, there was complete sensory deprivation. No sight, no sound, no sensation of any kind. Then, light. Blinding, beautiful light. Lyra opened her eyes to find herself standing on the surface of Earth, specifically on a high clifftop overlooking an ocean. The sky above was a brilliant blue, clouds drifting lazily across its expanse. The air was rich with oxygen, almost intoxicating to her Novalian physiology. Beautiful, isn't it? Lyra spun around to find a human standing behind her, a female, by her appearance, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. Who are you? Lyra asked, though she already suspected the answer. The human smiled. I am Earth, or rather, I am a manifestation of the entity your council fears so greatly, presented in a form your mind can comprehend. Why have you brought me here? Because it is time for a change, Earth replied, gesturing for Lyra to walk with her along the clifftop. For billions of years, I have slumbered, growing, developing, nurturing the life upon my surface. I have defended myself when necessary, but otherwise remained dormant. They paused at the edge of the cliff, looking out over the vast ocean stretching to the horizon. But humanity is reaching a critical juncture, Earth continued. Their development has accelerated beyond what even I anticipated. They stand on the precipice of becoming something new, something that has never existed in this galaxy before. And what is that? Lyra asked. Earth turned to her, those galaxy-filled eyes seeming to look through her rather than at her. A bridge. I don't understand. You will. Earth placed a hand on Lyra's forehead, and suddenly her mind was filled with visions. Humans reaching out to the stars, making contact with other species, bringing with them the unique perspective of a species that had evolved under the influence of something ancient and vast. Humans becoming intermediaries between conventional life forms and something older, something that existed before the current universe took shape. Your council quarantined this world out of fear, Earth said as the visions faded. But fear is born of ignorance. It is time for the galaxy to remember what it has forgotten. And what is that? Lyra whispered, still reeling from the visions. That it is not alone. That there are older things than stars in this cosmos. That humanity was never meant to be isolated, but to be a bridge between the old and the new. In the distance, beyond Earth's atmosphere, Lyra could sense the confrontation between the Guardian structure and the Council ships. The structure was changing, becoming something that the Council's weapons couldn't harm. Your Council stands at a crossroads, Earth said, following her gaze upward. They can continue to hide in ignorance, enforcing their quarantine out of fear, or they can embrace a new understanding, a partnership with forces they once fled from. And you want me to deliver this message? Earth nodded. You sought answers. Now you have them. Return to your people, Lyrek Senval. Tell them what you have seen. Tell them that Earth and humanity are awakening, and the galaxy must prepare for what comes next. Lyra felt a sudden vertigo as the world seemed to shift around her. The clifftop, the ocean, the human form of Earth, all began to fade. "Wait," Lyra called out. "What is happening to me?" "You are going home," Earth's voice replied, already distant, "with a truth that will change everything." The world dissolved into light, and Lyra knew no more. The awakening. When Lyra regained consciousness, she found herself lying on the deck of a council vessel, surrounded by armed guards with weapons trained on her. The familiar weight of restraints bound her wrists, and a neural suppressor had been attached to the base of her skull, preventing her from accessing any psionic abilities that Novalians possessed. She struggled to sit up, her vision still swimming with afterimages from her encounter with Earth. "The prisoner is awake," one of the guards announced, stepping back cautiously. The door slid open, and High Counselor Dres Mokhtar entered, his crystalline exoskeleton clicking softly as he approached. He studied her with his compound eyes, a mixture of anger and fear evident in his posture. "Researcher Lyra Xenval," he said, his voice cold. "You have violated at least 17 council directives, stolen classified information, and potentially triggered a crisis that could affect the entire galaxy. What do you have to say for yourself?" Lyra met his gaze steadily. "I've seen the truth, Counselor. The truth your precious council has been hiding for 8,000 years." "You know nothing," Dres snapped. "You are a child playing with forces beyond your comprehension." "I comprehend more than you think," Lyra replied, memories of her encounter with Earth still vivid in her mind. "I know why the oldest species fear Earth. I know what sleeps beneath its surface. And I know that your quarantine is based on fear, not wisdom." Dres's exoskeleton flashed a warning red, a sign of extreme agitation among his species. "The quarantine has protected the galaxy for millennia. What happened to your ship, to the Guardian structure, proves that we were right to isolate Earth." "What did happen?" Lyra asked, genuinely curious. Her last memories before arriving on Earth's surface were of stepping into the pool of liquid darkness within the Guardian structure. Dres gestured to a view screen on the wall. It activated, showing footage of the confrontation, the council ships surrounding the Guardian structure, weapons charged. Then, a blinding flash of light that seemed to emanate not from the structure, but from the direction of Earth itself. When the light faded, the structure was gone. And so was Lyra's ship. "We found you floating in space, protected by some kind of energy field that our sensors couldn't penetrate," Dres explained. The Guardian structure had vanished, along with any trace of the beings that inhabited it. "They weren't destroyed," Lyra said with certainty. "They've existed since before this galaxy took its current shape. They merely relocated." "And how would you know that?" Dres demanded. Lyra smiled faintly. "Because Earth told me." The room fell silent. The guards exchanged nervous glances, and even Dres seemed momentarily at a loss for words. "You claim to have communicated with the entity," he finally asked, his voice softer now, almost reverent in its fear. "Not just communicated. I stood on Earth's surface. I spoke with a manifestation of the entity, and it gave me a message for the Council." Dres's compound eyes fixed on her with new intensity. "What message?" "That it's time for change. The quarantine must end." Dres stepped back as if physically struck. "Impossible. The entity has been dormant for millennia. It cannot possibly." "It's awakening," Lyra interrupted. "And so are the humans. They're reaching a critical point in their development. Soon, they'll achieve interstellar travel on their own, quarantine or no quarantine. Then we will destroy them," Dres said, his voice hardening again. "We have the capability to sterilize the planet's surface if necessary." Lyra laughed, though there was no humor in it. "You still don't understand, do you? Earth isn't just a planet with an entity inside it. The planet is the entity, its physical form in this dimension. And it's been protecting itself for billions of years against threats far greater than your council." She leaned forward, despite the restraints. "Why do you think the Zenturi fleet was destroyed? Why did the Krelnar expedition vanish? Do you truly believe your weapons could succeed where theirs failed? Uncertainty flickered across Drez's features. The Zentari and Krelnar had indeed been more technologically advanced than the current Council species, their weapons systems legendary even now. "What does it want?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Partnership, not isolation," Lyra replied. "Earth has been nurturing humanity for a purpose. They are meant to be a bridge between conventional life forms like us and the older entities that exist beyond our understanding." "A bridge to what end?" Lyra shook her head. "That it didn't fully explain, but I believe it's preparing for something that requires both humanity's unique perspective and the cooperation of the galactic community." Drez was silent for a long moment, his compound eyes unreadable. Finally, he gestured to the guards. "Leave us." When they had gone, he approached Lyra more closely. "What you're suggesting would upend 8,000 years of Council policy. The oldest species, those who established the quarantine, warned that contact with Earth would bring catastrophe. Or perhaps they feared what Earth represents," Lyra countered. "A power older than their civilizations, older than their understanding of the universe itself. And you trust this entity. You believe its intentions are benevolent." Lyra considered the question carefully. "I believe it has a purpose that transcends our concepts of good and evil. But I also believe that continuing to isolate Earth will lead to exactly the catastrophe your ancestors feared. The entity is awakening whether we acknowledge it or not. The only question is whether we face what comes next as allies or adversaries." 3 months later, Lyra stood on the observation deck of the Council diplomatic vessel, outstretched hand, watching as Earth grew larger in the view screen. Behind her, representatives from 9 of the 12 Council species conversed in hushed tones, their anxiety palpable. Only the Arcturians, the Zentari, and the Krelnar, the 3 oldest species in the Council, had refused to participate in this unprecedented diplomatic mission. Their warnings had been dire. Breaking the quarantine would doom the galaxy to chaos. Yet here they were, approaching the forbidden planet with a message of peace rather than fear. High Counselor Drez joined Lyra at the view screen, his exoskeleton now a calm blue, reflecting his carefully controlled emotions. "Are you certain this is wise?" he asked quietly. "No," Lyra admitted, "but I am certain that continuing as we have been is not an option. Earth is changing. The humans are changing. We can either be part of that change or be swept aside by it." Drez nodded slowly. The Council was divided on this decision. Many still believe we should maintain the quarantine, perhaps even strengthen it. "And what do you believe, Counselor?" Drez's compound eyes studied the blue-green planet growing larger before them. "I believe that fear is a poor basis for policy. For 8,000 years, we have feared what we do not understand. Perhaps it is time to understand instead." The ship's communication system chimed, and the captain's voice filled the observation deck. "Counselor, we're receiving a transmission from Earth's surface. It's directed to researcher Xenval specifically." Lyra and Drez exchanged glances of surprise. "Put it through," Drez ordered. The view screen shifted, showing the face of a human female, the same manifestation of Earth that Lyra had encountered months ago. The representatives behind them gasped and murmured at the sight. "Lyra Xenval," the entity said, its galaxy-filled eyes seeming to look through the screen directly at her. "You have returned, as I knew you would, and you have brought others." "Good." Drez stepped forward. "I am High Counselor Drez Mokhtar of the Unification Council. We come in peace, seeking dialogue with Earth and its guardian." The entity smiled. "Peace is acceptable. Dialogue is necessary. Much has changed since your ancestors fled from the knowledge I represent. It is time for remembrance." "Remembrance of what?" Drez asked. "Of the truth your species have forgotten. Before there were stars, before there was light, there were entities like me, sleeping, dreaming, waiting. Some of us chose to manifest within physical forms, planets, stars, even entire galactic systems, to experience the evolution of younger life. The entity's form seemed to shift, becoming more luminous. Your ancestors discovered our existence and flowed in fear, believing us to be threats to their expansion. They forgot that we were the ones who seeded the cosmos with the potential for life in the first place. Lyra felt a chill run down her spine. You created life. Created is too simple a word. We dreamed, and our dreams took form. We watched, and our watching guided. We exist in dimensions your sciences have not yet named, yet we choose to interact with this universe because it interests us. The representatives behind Lyra and Dres had fallen completely silent, transfixed by the entity's words. And what of humanity? Dres asked. What is their role in this? The entity's expression grew softer, almost fond. They are my children in a way no other species has been. For billions of years, I have nurtured life on my surface, guiding its evolution through 5 mass extinctions, countless climate shifts, and the random chaos of cosmic events. But humans are different. How? Lyra asked. They dream as I dream. Their consciousness resonates with mine in ways no other species has achieved. They imagine, they create, they destroy, all with an intensity that mirrors the oldest forces of the cosmos. They are young, primitive in many ways, but their potential is unique. And when they achieve interstellar travel, Dres pressed. What then? Then the real work begins, the entity replied. The cosmos faces threats older than your civilizations, older even than entities like myself. The boundaries between dimensions are thinning. What sleeps beyond must not awaken fully. A chill settled over the observation deck. Lyra found herself gripping the railing tightly. What are you saying? I am saying that isolation is no longer an option. For Earth, for humanity, or for your council. A greater quarantine is failing, one that has protected this universe for billions of years. When it breaks, and it will break, all life in this galaxy and beyond will need to stand together. The entity's form began to shift, becoming less human, more a swirl of energy and light. My children will soon reach for the stars on their own. When they do, they must not find enemies waiting, but allies ready to help them understand their true nature and purpose. And what is that purpose? Dres asked, his voice barely audible. To be the bridge between conventional life and the older forces of creation. To channel energies your species cannot touch without destruction. To stand at the boundary between dimensions and ensure that what should remain separate does. The entity's form stabilized again, once more appearing as a human female. Your council has a choice, as it did 8,000 years ago. Last time, you chose fear and isolation. This time, I suggest you choose partnership and understanding. The consequences of the wrong choice will be far greater now than they were then. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the observation deck in stunned silence. After several moments, Dres turned to Lyra. It seems your instincts were correct.